Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The webinar will be starting now. My name is Nathan Isidora, and on behalf of Phillips University, we would like to thank you for joining us today for our webinar titled Online Buying Behavior in Lighting, presented by Didier Zegers. Before I get started, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to attract your attention to the right side of the screen. You will see a chat box and a Q&A box, a question and answer box. Now, the chat box, if you're facing any technical issues or technical difficulties, please state so in the chat box, and our representative will try and help you as soon as possible. And if you're facing any, if you have any questions, please ask them in the Q&A box. And at the end of the presentation, our host will try and go through as many questions as he possibly can. Now, to continue, today's presentation will be given by Didier Zegers. Didier is a professional marketeer with over 15 years of experience in marketing and marketing communications. He is responsible for leading and developing and implementing a consistent online marketing strategy and implementing an online consumer decision buying journey. Now, without any further ado, Didier Zegers.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the introduction, Nathan. Wish you all very welcome, and I hope you can hear me well. Before we start diving into the actual contents, I would like to ring-fence the topic that we are discussing today, because in languages there is often not a clear distinction between fixtures, what we're talking here, and bulbs. So we call it in English, we call this a lamp in some cases, and we call this a lamp. So just to be very, very clear, we're talking about this kind of lamp, also referred to as a fixture or as a luminaire. The reason why I clarify this is because of the fact that it's not just a matter of semantics, but also the decision journey and the decision criteria can drastically differ between the both of them. Okay. Before we dive into the actual decision journey, something about market and market sizes. Looking at the numbers of various instances like JFK and CISO, we've come to the conclusion that a consumer fixture market can be further detailed out as shown. As you can see, there's a decorative segment in it of roughly 65%, covering both living room and bedroom fixtures, followed by the smaller segments, kitchen lighting, bathroom lighting, and garden lighting, each representing between 10 and 15% of the pie. When we zoom in a little bit on the decorative part, it is clear that the consumer fixture must fit the consumer style at home. And that brings us to some challenges we have to face and we have to address. On the one hand, there's not one single way to call a style a name. I just inserted a graph on potential synonyms of the word modern, and then you see a whole range of words coming back. So it's not very easy to talk about something specific. That's one thing. In a consumer's home, they're often mixed, so people mix and match to whatever they like. And then there's this other sensitivity, which is more in the case of traditional or heritage. The moment we really start labeling something heritage or traditional, we end some dangerous territory because people do not like to be labeled with such a thing. So quite some challenges to address. Okay, quick question. Just reflect on it and I'll give you the answer very shortly. How big, according to your information or to your knowledge, is the consumer lighting fixture market from a global perspective? Is it 5 billion? Is it 10 billion? Is it roughly 15 billion? Or is it roughly 20 billion euro? Okay, I don't know what you had in mind, but the correct answer is C. The consumer lighting fixture market is estimated to be roughly at 15 billion euros, whereas the total lighting market is calculated to be around 70 billion. Both are global, and the consumer fixture market in Europe is estimated to be at between 4 and 5 billion euro. When we start to zoom in on the consumer decision journey, as we call it, it's really a matter of zooming in on how consumers buy lighting. And the way we have gathered all our research from various instances in offline research, online research, segmentation research, whatever. This is what you see over here. So it's basically a consolidation of all the different researches we have done, plotted into a decision journey. In this case, for presentation reasons, we portrayed it into a linear approach. It is clear that there is not a linear approach nowadays anymore, but it's a circular approach. Right? So you keep on rotating within the inspiration until you think you found what you want, and then you move into the exploration. And when you think you've done all your choices and you buy to the buy button, you go to the buy button. If you do not find behind the buy button what you want to achieve, you go back to the previous stages. Okay. The way we work with it is basically we split the decision journey into 5 sub-segments. It's the inspiration stage. It's imagining your new home interior and understanding the light options. In many cases, it is a subconscious process where we stock impressions, which we gather when we are reading magazines, when we're browsing the internet, when we're looking at lifestyle programs on television, etc., etc. The next stage is the exploration stage. It is where consumers explore relevant lighting options and where to buy them. It's about narrowing down choices so that we can move to the next stage, which is the purchase. It's making the final decision. It's making the final call and actually buying, whether that's online or offline. And then there's the next stage. It's the installation. For the consumer, this is the moment of truth. This is where he fits the lighting products into his new interior. And then we have the experiencing, where you put on the light and actually start to have fun and to enjoy the lighting you just installed over time. It is clear that if you know that 53% of all consumers use online sooner or later in their buying process, and again, the buying process can end up in an online or in an offline purchase, that there's quite some online touch points to it. When we look at the inspiration stage, depending on the digital lifestyle, the country we're operating in, social and blogging could be a very important platform. So can CRM, newsletters, direct mailings, etc. But in all cases, it is very clear, and it's something we learn consistently, that within this inspiration stage, offline is still very, very important. The glossy magazines on lifestyle and interior are key in this stage. When we move into the next stage, exploration, it's where the importance of assets like imagery, videos, comparison tables, a clear product description come into play, as well as tools to help make the right decision or that help you make narrowing down choices. It's also where we start reading ratings and reviews, people that purchased before and that shared their experience. That's the moment where we start reading these ratings and reviews. It's also where we have corporate landing pages or manufacturer landing pages that have an important role about the information. And of course, these things need to be Google findable, etc., as a sanity layer. When we move into the purchase, it is of course a matter of pricing. We'll come back to pricing in a later stage. It is also where to buy, again, on and offline. And it is also about making sure you have the right experience, not just at your own platform, so in our case on the Philips platform, but also at our retailers, whether they're offline and online. So we need to make sure we share content in an easy way so that we make the most use out of this content. And then again, as said, it's on and offline sales with and retailers. The installation stage is something which is not that much supported by online anymore, but in many cases we have something like a tutorial movie that helps to install step-by-step a specific fixture when it's a more complex one, something like that, or when you can find back your lost user manual. when you finally have installed it all, it's about registering your product, a potential warranty extension. It's writing a rating and a review, which is then used in the earlier stages. And in case something would happen and the fixture would break down, it's about aftercare. As said, the inspiration is still a very traditional one, so I don't have too many insights to share on the inspiration stage. And that's why we immediately step into the exploration, where we are narrowing down the choices and looking at the different outlets where we can get these things. In the coming slides, every time you will see big bullets, and these are insights, and these can be qualitative or quantitative from the research we did. And the first one is, I could buy online if I thought it would be, if I thought it would give me a very good idea of what it would be like. It is clearly referring to all the content we need to have for a specific product. In online, content is king. Different from a traditional shop where you can touch and feel and see the product, online is all virtual. So you need to have good product specs and description. You need to have the proper imagery, videos, tools, and some shopping advice. What we've also learned, and it's coming back to the sub-segments of the consumer fixture market, is that room is an important parameter to shop by. When we as a consumer start looking for lighting, in almost every case, we know that we are going to tackle the bathroom or the kitchen or whatever, and that we will put something against the wall or put on the table. So that's also how we have organized our browsing options on .com, and that's also what we are advising to our customers. Consider how consumers buy lighting. It's based on room, type, and style. And again, style is something very subjective. It should fit the interior. About reviews, it's kind of a challenging one again. A lot of people read consumer reviews in Europe, roughly 40%, but there's so little people writing actually these reviews within the fixture market. Nevertheless, it is a quite important element within the exploration stage. This is where, as again, this is a European number, and these numbers differ very, very much from region to region. Okay. 70% of the people include a store visit in their shopping experience. So this clearly shows the fact that although digital and online is becoming more and more important and growing, traditional retail in an offline environment is still not to be underestimated. If we combine both, we end up in a true multi-channel situation where online and offline are seamlessly moving from left to right, and that is what we see coming back, not just from our research, but also from consultancy firms like McKinsey and any other white paper you can find. Multi-channel is a key to the success for the future. Again, time for reflection. Question to you all. What is the actual market share of online within the segment of consumer lighting fixture? So what is the actual market share of online sales within the segment of consumer lighting fixture? Is it in the area of 5, in the area of 10, in the area of 15, or in the area of 20%? The right answer is A. Although it's rapidly growing and varying per country, the online market share within consumer fixture is around 5%. The moment of truth for us as retailers and as a manufacturer, the purchase, the moment people hit the buy button or pay at the cashier. What we see is that most shoppers for consumer fixtures are female. Right? 60 and slightly above of the shoppers are female, who enjoy shopping for a fixture, as it is a high involvement process the moment people start to think about the decoration of their home. Within the purchase process, there are some clear reasons why people would buy online, but also some barriers that restrain people from buying online. The enablers are clearly the range of the offer, the quality of the offer, any promotion, but also the shopping experience. So equal to offline, the shopping experience is very, very important. It has to do in an online environment with the content which is available, the ease of browsing, the way of navigation, the payment options, etc., etc. So it's all about the shopping experience, kind of similar to the offline environment. The barriers to buy online is the inability to touch, the lack of in-context, the delivery options, the trust in the party you're buying at or you're looking at. And again, it's the layout and info, which trails back a little bit to the shopping experience. All these, if you're able to tackle all these, it is very clear that your moment or your chances of becoming successful in as an e-commerce site or as a retailer are growing drastically. Looking at the shopping experience, a quick question. How many people with a planned purchase leave the shop without a fixture? In this case, it's a physical shop. Is it around 10%, around 20%, around 30%, or around 40%? The right answer is D. And to be very clear, over 95%, 96% of the unplanned visits even leave the shop without a purchase. In DIY, so the big do-it-yourself markets, over 40% of the planned visits do not result in a purchase. This really represents or underpins the statements we've made before. The shopping experience you offer, whether it's off or online, are a big contributor to the success at the cash register. Installation. It's the moment of truth for the consumer. Initially, it's for the consumer, in many cases, it is the moment he can see if the light works, whether it functions well, but also to witness what it adds to your interior or what it adds as a light effect. It's the moment of truth. For most consumers, the installation is experienced as not too difficult, and also most of the people do it themselves. Also here, in this statement, there's clear cultural difference between Asia, for instance, and Europe. In Europe, we're very DIY with these numbers referred to Europe. In Asia, there's much more about servicing, installation, and also maintenance afterwards. The experience stage, it is actually the moment it's fitting the lighting products in your new interior. Oh, I was wrong on the title. Sorry. It's really experiencing the fixture within your home, and 82% of the people value the creation and the experience of a nice atmosphere. So it is really an important contributor to the overall atmosphere at home, and that's also what they experience once they've installed the fixture. And then below 10% only write a review or share their experience within the market consumer fixtures. This is it as for a presentation. Are there any questions? Okay, I see one popping up.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end of the presentation. If you have any questions about the presentation or the game itself, please post your questions in the Q&A box. Thank you.
I have a question saying, or more statement, a lot of people don't like reading or viewing installation guidelines. It's a fair point. As a manufacturer of anything, it is key to make installation as neat and as simple as possible. But yeah, there's on the one hand there is a legislation which in many cases requires an installation guide. On the other hand, it might help a lot of, it might erase a lot of frustration. But it's true, the easier we make it, the less need we need for installation guidelines. I have a question from Bart Hendrik Huisman. How do we use this knowledge in our online strategy? Well, the flow that was depicted in the beginning of this stage is really, we stick it to the wall, and it is basically the fundament of every decision we make. And we also construct our strategy around consumer insights. So if you're talking about content, do we need more pictures? Do we need movies? Do we need a tool, etc.? It always drills down to this consumer decision flow. When we start to look at innovation from the online experience, it is also a matter of looking into the frustrations about the needs, the insights we have about shoppers. And one of these insights, for instance, is consumers find it very difficult prior to purchase to imagine how the fixture will look like at home. Well, this is something we've taken on board in our innovation strategy, and that's also what we are working on. So it is almost the cornerstone or the center, the core of everything we do from strategy, but also from ops. All these numbers are true for an end user, right? Do you have some idea when a company needs a fixture? From a company perspective, it's clearly a different shopper. So different shoppers means also different insights. There was a question from Juan Carlos Castro. I must say I'm not a subject expert in the professional lighting, so I'm sorry, Juan Carlos. And then there's a question from Peggy Goodrich. Do you find that most consumers like the one-on-one contact with a salesperson and seeing the light fixture in person? What we learn is that the physical contact is not necessarily a prerequisite. What is a prerequisite is the proper advice. And whether that's done by a very well-trained salesperson or via buying guides or whatever kind, that's a matter of the consumer in question. Actually seeing the light fixture, that's clearly one of the potential barriers for buying online or making your choice online. But that's also a challenge which we as marketeers have to address in our innovation when it comes to online. Question from Nathan Fisher. How much of an impact have integrated LED fixtures had on the residential market? LED lighting is clearly growing on importance for within the residential market. So we see a year-on-year growth of LED, even in the markets where economical situations are slightly more difficult than in others. We see one of the constant is that LED lighting for the residential market is a growth driver. Don't you think, a question from Bradley Muller, don't you think the complexity of dimming LEDs has affected their marketing ability or view of LEDs by the consumer? It is clear that although LED is a big growth driver, that LED also has its own challenges. I still remember when my granddad said I needed a bulb which has a lot of light, he said I needed a 100-watt bulb. It's not just about the dimming, it's also about the new terminology, etc. It is also about lumen output and not as much the wattages anymore. So it's clear it's not easy for a consumer, but that's also where brands, but also many retailers have a common task to help educate consumers. And it's making already automatic. Okay, my Q&A. Yeah. Juan Carlos Castro, is it common in the exploration stage that people take care of the technical specifications of the fixture, quantity of lumens, time of life of the bulb, etc., etc.? Okay, I will take this one as a last question. It depends on the application area. The moment we start talking kind of functional lighting to light up a garage, it is clear that it is more spec driven. Or when we say functional recess spots, for instance, that's more spec driven rather than the decorative lighting when we say chandeliers, fluorescents, etc., etc. There, the main drivers are the style, the light it emits, or the perception of light, the quality of the finishing, etc., etc. And only at the later stage, people will start to consider whether it's the time of the life of the bulb, etc., etc. It's also the reason why not everybody moves up to LED. It's also the reason why there's still quite a lot of eco-halogen, CFLI out there in the market. So it depends on the application area, and of course depending on the person. Okay. I am told I have to close down. My apologies for that one. I hope you enjoyed this session, and thanks you all for joining. See you. Bye-bye.